Good afternoon, everybody. This moment, I want to speak about how to speak English. In this moment, I want to explain about you in my experience when I was starting this language. So, my topic is speak about how to teach English, how to teach this beautiful language. Um, when I was starting this language, I was starting. In a normal school with my classmates as well. I was thinking about only how to speak this language because in that time I was studying cuisine because in that time to I wanted to be a chef, and after I decided to work as chef in a restaurant in Poblado. When I was working there, a friend of mine told me about that, how to teach English in an institution, and he told me and asked, "Okay, Duan, I want to ask a question because in this moment I have a friend, and that friend has an institution, and he needs a teacher. I don't know if you want to teach English there." Because I know you don't have any experience how to teach this language, but your level is okay. Wow, I was thinking about that. Oh my goodness, for me, it must be a little hard because I don't know how to teach this language. And he told me, okay, it's not difficult, and you have a good vocabulary. And do you remember when I was teaching you? Okay, the same time sorry the same way you try to teach English as well. So and I decided to teach English in my first experience was in that institution where I was with 18 students in that moment when I began my first class, and I had to explain, for example, the ABCs. I remember that because that was a little comic because I had to write on blackboard, for example, the alphabet. When I began to write on the blackboard, and I wrote in a wrong way because instead of to put ph, I put F. Oh my goodness, the alphabet with F instead of PH. So I was shaking in that moment, my legs, my arms. Oh my goodness. And after, oh my goodness, now, how can I erase that mistake? So I had to say to the students, "Oh, I'm sorry, but in this moment I make a mistake. I made a mistake in this part. Please, forgive me this and the other ones as well." Yeah, but that experience was hard at the beginning. I confess that was so hard. But then after when I was getting experience how to teach, for example, I had to learn different rules, and some grammar parts is so hard. For example, and after when I was explaining to the students, for example, conditional, and I had to explain conditional, but in that moment I didn't know how to use one of those conditionals. I had to decide how to explain to them, and I had to investigate by myself on on the internet. And after I decided to explain to them, but something I had to learn by heart. And after when I was explaining to them, I knew how to use in a good way those conditionals. It's good, for example, when you try to teach this language. For example, when you try to teach this language to another student or a friend of you, and you try to explain all the things and you don't understand in that moment, and you try to practice by yourself, and after when you try to speak with Dan or with your friend and you try to explain about how to use that rule, and you can learn twice, because that is the point when you are teaching this language. You can learn twice. Now, when you try to, for example, in this moment, when you try to speak faster and you need to speak faster this language because it's so hard when you are beginning, and you say, my goodness, it's so hard to learn how to speak faster. In my experience, I had to read in a lot of voice, um, some readings and stories and songs, because in that moment I didn't have any documents on specials. Um in that time I had to work only with songs. For example, I remember those subtitles, those titles. For example, Bonnie M. Bonnie M. This is a group. And a special song is by the River of Babylon, for example. And in that time, I was singing that song and try to reproduce and repeat those pronunciations, because it's not hard, it's not difficult. It's when you try to practice. When you try to practice at least 20, 30, almost 1 hour, starting every day, for because in that moment, for example, when you want to explain, or when you want to practice how to speak, how to express your ideas in English, you must practice by yourself reading. In my case, for example, I was working in some restaurants in Poblado, uh, in a main street that is called La 10. Is in Poblado. I was working there as griller, and all every day I had to speak English with people from other countries in different accents, because it's so hard when you are speaking with people from other countries and the accent is so hard. But at the beginning, for example, when I was studying English, I was studying American English. And after, when I was speaking with my first experience speaking with people from London, was there in Poblado. I was speaking with people, sir, for example, from Liverpool, and that English is easy to understand, but it's not immediately. It's when you are speaking after 10, 15 minutes, is when you can realize and you can understand, because they speak clearly and they separate all the words. It's when you are speaking with people from Canada, for example, and you try to speak with them at the beginning, and you can understand very easy, is clear, and they separate all the words, and they don't like to use, for example, contractions or something like, for example, when you want to say, uh, I am going to go with you. For example, in American English, they say, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go with you. But in Canadian English, they say, I am going to go with you. It's much, it's much better. It's different, and you can understand easily. I decided to teach this language after 5 years teaching this language. I decided to begin with this career and try to finish this career because it's beautiful, and try to learn new things and how to explain this language in a good way, where, for example, the children of tomorrow can learn how to speak this beautiful language, and they decide to speak this language like a second language, like something, how could I say, culture, and try to speak English as well here in Colombia in a future. I don't know, maybe in 5 or 10 years, and you can realize, and those people, those children can speak English and Spanish in the same way, right? Because that is the point, and try to speak this language. But tends to get, because I can speak English and I would like to learn another languages. But in this moment, I decide to learn completely this language and try to finish my career, and thanks to God, and thanks and bless my family and all the things I have so far. Okay, bye. Take care. God bless you so much.